think that's the group that will probably
Do it.
Yeah, they'll probably do it.
Yeah, so I started out as a software guy, and so I've had a home computer since 1984, and I have probably 20 more things plugged in my house than I had 10 years ago. And when I sit down at my desk, and I have a computer and a scanner and a printer and several other peripherals and speakers, and those are still drawing electricity even when they're turned off, right? If I leave it all plugged in. So would a smart meter and some home area network monitors allow me to judge how much I'm spending, how much money I'm spending on electricity, even when my whole computer system's turned off? I'm burning money.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. I mean, one of the things that the device allows you to see is the amount of consumption that is being used, not necessarily to benefit the consumer.
Right.
And there are, as we start developing a much more robust network within the home area network, there are different devices that consumers and third-party suppliers can bring into the home to help manage all of those all that type of consumption.
Go ahead, Jim. Do you want to say something?
Mark, I would just add, kind of back to my comment about, there's other ways for consumers to make a significant difference in their electric usage without just dialing up or down the thermostat. It's, to Tom's point, it's the realization that a lot of these other devices consume so much energy, and if just the awareness and allowing the consumers to make choices about how they want to run some of these other devices allows them to have some pretty big impacts without a whole lot of lifestyle changes.
And by the way, here's a listener that made a comment about my Kindle reference. Please don't correlate my reference to buying my wife a Kindle with the average age of a Kindle buyer to keep me out of hot water here. But her question is, seems to come down to what technology suits each utility's consumer buckets best. So I assume you have your own demographic analysis, but you guys aren't retailers, so I don't know how much of that analysis you actually do. What about the consumers who are out of the house most of the time, and do they have an app that connects with their in-home device? I carry around, I used to carry around a cell phone, and I don't anymore. I actually carry around a computer that actually has a telephone app on it. So how's the handheld app device market evolving? I think that's what this person is getting at.
I think ultimately that's where we'll see a lot of consumers heading. But I also think that right now we're in the infancy of this technology. We're starting to move it from the lab out to the field and actually start providing the information to the consumer. So I think as time goes on, we'll start seeing more and more apps. We'll start seeing the integration of the technology that we're deploying along with our smart meter, the integration of that with other devices, like you said, Mark, your smartphone or iPads. As of right now, there's not a lot of apps that are available that consumers can use right now.
Okay. In the literature, I'm gonna go here and to a little bit risky area, but I assume you guys get questions about security of consumer information. Would you all like to make any comments about that?
Yeah, let me start, Mark. And I think it's important to point out that in the Texas market where CenterPoint and Encore operate, the commission has been very clear on who owns the information. The consumer owns the data. We're allowed to only release their information to those who the customer designates. So I think rule number one is very, very clear on who owns the data, and I think Texas got that right. Secondly, from just a security standpoint, obviously, if you look at the entire smart metering chain from the meter to the telecommunication network to the back office systems, all those have very specific security schemes and plans that are in place. Part of our rollout plan has security audits built into that. So I think kind of going back first is very clear rules on who owns the data and privacy, and a very secure platform all the way through that you continue to test time and time again. So that's the model here in Texas.
Thank you. I followed the rollout really closely, again, when it comes to meter accuracy. And I know in California that there have been some local jurisdictional entities that have created opt-out options, which I personally find, I don't know what the right word is, a bad public policy, let me just say that, because it takes away some of the total optimization of the grid benefits that you get. It takes away some of the environmental benefits of the grid. But But let's go back to the metering and the data and talk about this accuracy thing for a minute. Can one of y'all explain, we've always billed on 15-minute intervals in Texas, right? Only before the smart meters, the intervals were, the 15-minute data was created by load profile estimation techniques, whereas now we get it accurate. Can one of you guys comment on the changes in accuracy to the bill with the rollout of smart meters, that we're getting actual data now instead of using load profiles? Or is this not something you're prepared to talk
No,
about?
I'll just start. I mean, obviously, the digital meters that are in the market today are arguably more accurate than the electromechanical meters they're replacing. So starting there. Also, as you mentioned earlier, that we're providing 15-minute billing quality data on each premise. So the fact that the retailer and the market is getting validated information on a 15-minute basis really opens up the door to a lot of different programs that they would like to, that the retailers would like to put together. So I think what we have today is a more accurate meter plus a settlement system based on 15 minutes that is absolutely validated information.
Now, I know that both of you, I'm sorry, did you want to say something, Tom?
Well, yeah, if I may. We've also, and Jim, you mentioned it in your remarks this morning, within the state, I've actually had an audit taking a look at not just the accuracy of the meter, but the end-to-end, from reading all the way to the bill. And what we've been able to see and prove with a third party is that it is more accurate, and that the individual components are more accurate, and the entire system is more accurate. Yes, there probably are concerns and our questions on it. But I think if we take a look at what third parties have told us, we're actually quite pleased with the accuracy of the systems.
Now, the data flows from the meters, and I've studied y'all's computer networks through, your industry, not your two companies, tend to optimize your network expenditures to keep the bills as low to the customer as possible with a variety of different networking mechanisms to get the data from a house to the bill, right? So the data comes through your systems, which may have RF mesh networks, and it may have other kinds of networks, and may go through fiber here, and you guys then send it to ERCOT. So let's make sure I get this right. ERCOT does a consolidation of everybody's data and makes it available to a vendor contract that you two and AEP, the three of you guys, collectively manage to make that data then available to the customer. They can get that data from your websites, right, their usage data, and some retailers. Am I describing this correctly? Please correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah,
I'm very comfortable with being wrong.
You're right. I think what we're doing is in Texas we have a mechanism to take data from right now Oncor, AEP, and CenterPoint, and we send that data, that 15-minute consumption data, to the Smart Meter Texas web portal on a daily basis.
Who owns that portal?
And that is a joint consortium of, right now, the three utilities, Oncor, AEP, and CenterPoint Energy. So we are sending that 15-minute consumption interval data to the Smart Meter Texas web portal daily. We are also sending that data daily to ERCOT.
That's smartmetertexas.com.
That's smartmetertexas.com. That's the common web portal within the state of Texas where the utilities, at least the three utilities right now, are sending our data and allowing the retail electric providers, the competitive retailer community, to access the data, as well as being able to allow consumers through the Smart Meter Texas web portal to access their
Okay, so I was wrong. So it doesn't go to ERCOT and back to smartmetertexas.com. You guys send it to both places.
We send it to both places. Yeah.
That way you own the source of the data. And there should always be one source of data in any kind of computer system. Now, what if I want somebody else to look at my data? What if I want, an energy management consulting firm or a consolidator or an aggregator to look at my data? How do I do that?
Currently, anybody, third party or other entity who wants access to a consumer's data has the ability to get a letter of authorization from the consumer. And with that letter of authorization, they can come to us as the utility, and we'll provide them that data. Where we are heading with the Smart Meter Texas web portal is functionality to allow reps who wish to participate in the third-party market and provide third-party services, third parties and other market participants, the ability to have consumers opt in to their offerings, and by opting in, the consumer is granting the third party access to their data. So we're going to build that functionality into the Smart Meter Texas web portal. That's probably coming up within the next 6 months or so.
Okay, thank you very much. Go ahead, Jim.
Mark, if I could just come back up 1 second on the portal itself. As Tom described, this is a joint effort by all the utilities that are deploying smart meters in the Texas market. And while it does provide a great mechanism for consumers to go out and look at their data, the thing we don't talk a lot about is that web portal is really the communication hub for the market. In other words, if a retailer wants to send a signal to a in-home device in their customer's territory, they don't have to stop and figure out, is that an Encore service area and I have to hit their portal? Is that in CenterPoint? So this is really, not only is it a consumer capability to view their data, but it provides a tremendous capability for the retail market to be able for retailers to really seamlessly communicate with their customers, send pricing information, do load control to their home in-home device. So it's a great tool, more than just providing data to the consumer.
Thank you. I was at the Gulf Coast Power Association meeting last week in Houston, Texas, with John Shapiro, my friend and the founder of the Texas Institute, and we saw a debate between retailers and transmission owners, neither of which was your companies, but another transmission owner in Texas, whose job it was to educate consumers about smart meters. And they were pointing fingers at each other. So do you want to point fingers today, or are you going to point them at me? Or you want to point them at who you want to point them at?
Well, as Jim
Whose job is that?
I think it's going to take everybody to communicate, to help educate consumers. It's going to take the traditional utilities. I think it's going to take the commission and other agencies to get the word out. I think it's going to take the retailers, especially, to communicate to their customers. So it's really going to take everybody, I think, to really drive home the message that the technology is here. You can start tapping into the benefits today, and I think as soon as consumers start understanding what it is, I think we're going to see a rapid adoption and usage of the technology.
Okay, we're getting close to wrapping up here. We probably have time for one more question. I'd just like to make a couple of comments. Again, based on my contacts around the nation with other independent system operators and other electric grids, the legislature in Texas and the regulators have done something that's quite special here. We have a solid deregulated wholesale and retail markets here. I remember when I first started speaking at national electric conferences with my peers, with the other operators, and I would talk about retail deregulation, they would look at me with their eyes crossed, like, why are you even doing that? Well, today there are 17 states across the nation that have deregulated retail. People are learning from Texas. People are learning from Texas on how to integrate renewables. We have 10,000 megawatts of capacity in our system that makes us 3 times the number 2 state in the nation, which is Iowa. And if we were an independent country, which some of us think we are, but we would be ranked 5th in the world in renewables integration. And the smart metering rollout is, again, an area where I think Texas is leading, not only in just the market penetration of the meters, but in the sophistication of their capacity, their capabilities, and the thoroughness. And we really want to thank Encore and CenterPoint for coming today. Y'all have given us a lot of fascinating information. Again, it's Tom Olinger, Director in CenterPoint's Energy Smart Grid Program Management Office, and Jim Greer, Senior Vice President of Asset Management and Engineering for Encore. So thank you guys very, very much. I appreciate it. Yes? We have one last question. I'm sure it's not the last question. It's just the last question asked today. Exactly. Okay. Also, out of the 19 meters that Encore tested, was one similar to the CenterPoint model? I'm not sure what the 19 meters refers to. We talk about testing for accuracy.
No, I think he's probably referring to devices.
In the in-home
Okay.
devices, I don't have my list in front of me, but I think the answer is yes, that there is similar to the ones that CenterPoint rolled out.
Oh, this is 19 vendors interacting with your meters. I see. Thank you.
And I think they are pretty similar. Within Texas, we've hosted what we call ZigFest, which is an opportunity for device manufacturers to test their products on Encore's, AEP's, and CenterPoint system all in one location. So we'll take our system up to Fort Worth, bring it here to Fort Worth, and allow vendors to test. That allows them to ensure that it works on our systems individually, but it also allows the vendor to ensure that it'll work amongst the three of us, or interoperate between the three of us.
Correct, correct. And ZigFest, for those of you who may not know, is a reference to the Zigbee Alliance. And we had a member here in the room from the Zigbee Alliance that is setting up interoperability standards in home area networks to interact with smart grid technology, if I got that right. Okay, anything else? Are we done? Thank you all. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, very much. I really appreciate the time today, and y'all have a good day.